They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I served mine on ice, in a boardroom, with witnesses, lawyers, and federal agents in attendance. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Adrian Castellano, and this is the story of how the two people I loved most in this world tried to bury me alive, and how I made sure they were the ones who ended up 6 feet under instead. 8 years. That's how long Marcus Hayes and I had been together when everything fell apart. 8 years of building something real, or at least what I thought was real. We met in our final year of business school, both ambitious, both hungry for success, both unwilling to settle for the corporate ladder when we could build our own empire instead. Marcus was fire, where I was ice. He had this infectious energy that drew people in, made investors open their wallets, made clients trust us with their most sensitive data. I was the strategist, the one who turned his charisma into contracts, who built the infrastructure that made our dreams sustainable. Together, we founded Apex Dynamics, a cybersecurity firm that grew from a 2-person operation in my apartment to a company worth $47 million in just 7 years. We were partners in every sense of the word. Business partners, life partners. We shared everything. A penthouse downtown, a beach house in the Hamptons, a portfolio of investments that kept growing. His name was on my emergency contact forms, mine was on his life insurance policy. I thought we were building forever. Then there was Devin. Devin Pierce had been my best friend since sophomore year of college. We'd been through everything together. Failed exams, toxic ex-boyfriends, coming out to conservative parents, the anxiety of launching a startup. He was the brother I chose, the person who knew me better than anyone except Marcus. When Marcus and I got serious, Devin folded seamlessly into our lives. He worked in marketing at a different firm, but he was always around, at our dinner parties, on our vacations, in our private group chat that pinged all day with memes and inside jokes. The three of us were inseparable. Marcus used to joke that we were like a 3-legged stool. Take one away and everything collapsed. He was right about that, at least. I should have known something was wrong earlier. Looking back, the signs were there, scattered like breadcrumbs I was too blind to see. But when you trust someone completely, you don't look for deception. You explain away the inconsistencies. You rationalize the red flags. Marcus started working late more often about 6 months ago. Not unusual. We were closing a major contract with a healthcare consortium, and the due diligence phase was brutal. But whereas he used to text me updates, send me photos of his takeout containers stacked on his desk, now there was just silence. When he came home at midnight smelling like expensive cologne instead of stale office air, I chalked it up to client dinners. "How was the evening?" I'd ask, leaning against the doorframe as he entered the penthouse. "Exhausting," Marcus would sigh, dropping his briefcase and kissing my forehead with a practiced warmth. "The merger talks are draining me, but having you there to keep me grounded made the chaos bearable. Those drinks after the meeting really helped me clear my head." You there, meaning me. Except I had been home all evening, my fingers stained with ink as I worked on our quarterly financial projections in the study. But I didn't question it, not yet. Why would I? Devin, my best friend of 10 years, would chime in to our group chat minutes later. "Tell Adrian thanks for dragging Marcus out. He was about to bite the waiter's head off before we got to the bar." I'd stare at the screen, a small frown forming. Maybe he meant he was thinking of me. Maybe I was so buried in spreadsheets I'd lost track of time. Devin wouldn't lie. Not Devin. But the web went deeper than just drinks. A week later, Sarah, our head of accounts, called my personal line at 9 p.m., her voice frantic. "Adrian, I'm so sorry to bother you at dinner, but Marcus's phone is off and I need his digital signature on the audit release before the midnight deadline. He told me he was taking you to that new French place downtown to celebrate your anniversary month." I looked at the bowl of lukewarm salad in front of me and my laptop screen. He just stepped away from the table, Sarah. Send it to me. I'll make sure he signs." I forged his signature myself, protecting his reputation, thinking I was being a supportive partner. In reality, I was unknowingly signing the first set of documents Marcus and Devin were using to frame me. Then there was the charity gala. Marcus told the board members he couldn't attend because I had a migraine and he couldn't bear to leave my side. When the board chairman called the house to check on me, Marcus intercepted the call in the hallway, whispering, "He's finally asleep. Please don't wake him." When I was actually in the living room, perfectly fine, wondering why Marcus was taking business calls in the dark. Every lie was a brick. They weren't just cheating. They were using my very existence to build a wall between me and the truth. The human mind is incredible at protecting itself from painful truths. The distance grew. Marcus stopped initiating sex, and when I initiated, there was always an excuse. Tired, stressed, headache. The passionate man who used to pin me against the shower wall and make me forget my own name became someone who kissed me like a polite stranger. "Is everything okay?" I finally asked one night, about 3 months ago. He looked at me with those dark eyes I'd once thought I could read perfectly. "Of course. Why?" "You just seem distant." "I'm here, aren't I?" He reached over and squeezed my hand. "Work is crazy right now. Once the deal closes, I promise we'll take that trip to Santorini we keep talking about." I wanted to believe him. So I did. Devin, meanwhile, became more present. He started dropping by the office more often, always with some excuse. He was in the neighborhood, he wanted to grab lunch, he needed my advice on a project. Looking back, I realize now he was checking on Marcus, making sure their story stayed straight, creating a paper trail of normalcy. "You're around a lot lately," I mentioned once, smiling as he perched on the edge of my desk. "Can't a guy visit his best friend?" Devin grinned, but something flickered in his eyes. Guilt? I couldn't tell then. "Always," I said. "You know you're always welcome." The irony wasn't lost on me later. The first crack in my reality came on a Tuesday. I was in my office at Apex Dynamics reviewing quarterly reports when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, probably spam, but something made me pick up. "Mr. Castellano?" A woman's voice, professional but cold. "Speaking." "This is Agent Sarah Chen from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. I need you to come to our offices tomorrow at 9 a.m. We have some questions regarding financial irregularities at Apex Dynamics." My blood turned to ice water. Irregularities? What kind of irregularities? "We'll discuss that tomorrow. Bring your attorney." She hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, my mind racing. Financial irregularities. FBI. What the hell was going on? Apex Dynamics was clean. I made sure of it. Every transaction documented, every tax form filed on time, every client contract reviewed by our legal team. I immediately called Marcus. Voicemail. I called our company attorney, Janet Reeves. She answered on the second ring. "Adrian, I was just about to call you. I received a notice from the FBI this morning. They're investigating potential embezzlement." "Embezzlement? From our company?" "From your account specifically," Janet said carefully. "They've frozen your business account pending investigation. Adrian, this is serious. They have evidence, or they think they do, that you've been siphoning funds through shell companies." The world tilted. "That's insane. I haven't. Janet, you know me. I would never—" "I know, which is why we need to be very careful about how we handle this. Don't talk to anyone about this until we meet with the FBI. And I mean anyone. Not Marcus, not employees, no one." I agreed, hung up, and sat in my office as the walls seemed to close in. Shell companies, embezzlement, my account specifically. None of this made sense. Unless. No, not unless. It didn't make sense, period. I tried calling Marcus again. Still voicemail. I texted him. "Emergency. Call me ASAP." Nothing. I called Devin. He picked up immediately. "Hey, what's up?" "I need to talk to Marcus. It's urgent." "He mentioned he had back-to-back meetings today. Want me to try him?" "No, it's fine. I'll keep trying." I hung up and stared at my computer screen. Back-to-back meetings on a Tuesday afternoon when our calendar was relatively clear. Something wasn't right. I pulled up our company's financial records and started digging. Everything looked normal at first. The usual accounts, the expected transactions, quarterly payments to vendors and contractors. Then I found it. A subfolder I didn't recognize, dated 3 months ago. Inside were PDFs of wire transfer authorizations, my signature at the bottom of each one. Except I'd never signed these documents. The transfers went to companies I'd never heard of: Meridian Solutions LLC, Cascade Holdings, Phoenix Consulting Group. Amounts ranging from $50,000 to $200,000. Over the past 6 months, someone had moved nearly $3 million out of Apex Dynamics using my credentials, my falsified signature, my falsified authorization. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. Someone was framing me. But who? Who had access to our systems, to my digital signature, to the company accounts? Marcus. The realization hit me like a freight train. Marcus was the only other person with full administrative access, the only one who could create these documents, forge my signature, authorize these transfers without triggering alerts. But why? Why would he destroy everything we built together? Why would he risk? My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Sorry, crazy day. What's the emergency?" I stared at the message, my hands shaking. Play it cool, I told myself. Don't let him know you know. FBI called. They want to talk about company finances, some kind of investigation. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. What? That's insane. What did they say? Not much. Meeting tomorrow at 9. Bringing Janet. I'll come with you. We'll figure this out together. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I typed, "Thanks, I'm scared." "Don't be. I've got your back. Always." Always. The word felt like acid. I didn't go home that night. I told Marcus I was staying at the office to prepare for the FBI meeting, that I needed to review all our financial records to make sure everything was in order. He said he understood, told me he loved me, told me everything would be okay. Lies. All of it. Once I was alone, I started digging deeper. The shell companies, Meridian, Cascade, Phoenix, all had one thing in common. They were registered in Delaware, a notorious haven for anonymous LLCs. Their registered agents were corporate services that specialized in privacy. Dead ends, seemingly. But I'd built a cybersecurity company. I knew how to find digital footprints. I hacked into our company's server logs, my own company, but I needed to cover my tracks even from myself, and trace to the IP addresses associated with the fraudulent wire transfers. Most came from Marcus's computer. But some came from an IP address I didn't recognize. I ran it through a geolocation service. It pinged to an apartment building in Brooklyn. Devin's building. My best friend's building. I sat back in my chair, the pieces clicking into place like a puzzle I'd been too blind to see. Marcus and Devin. Together. Not just physically together, though that was clearly part of it, but together in this, conspiring, planning, plotting my destruction. But why involve Devin? Why would my best friend help my boyfriend frame me for embezzlement? I needed proof. I installed monitoring software on Marcus's laptop, the one he kept at the office, and cloned his phone data using a backup he'd saved to our shared drive. Technically illegal without his consent, but I was already facing federal charges for crimes I didn't commit. Legality was a relative concern at this point. What I found made me physically ill. Text messages, hundreds of them, going back 7 months. Marcus, he's working late again. Come over. Devin, on my way. Miss you. Marcus, miss you more. Can't wait to not have to hide this anymore. Devin, soon. Once he's out of the picture, we can finally be together. Marcus, and we'll have everything. The company, the assets, each other. He'll be locked away, and we'll finally be free. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. 7 to 10 years. They were willing to send me to prison, federal prison, for crimes I committed just so they could be together and steal everything I worked for. Marcus, who I'd loved for 8 years. Devin, who I'd trusted with my darkest secrets. Both of them conspiring to destroy me. I thought I might vomit.
But I didn't. Instead, something shifted inside me. The panic, the fear, the betrayal, it all crystallized into something cold and sharp and utterly focused. They thought I was blind. They thought I was a pawn. They thought they could make me disappear. They were wrong. The FBI meeting was theater.
I played my role perfectly. Confused, scared, cooperative. I answered their questions carefully, expressed shock at the allegations, provided access to my personal financial records without hesitation. Agent Chen was a hard woman with sharp eyes that seemed to see through lies. She laid out their evidence, the wire transfers, my signature, the shell companies, witness statements from anonymous sources claiming I'd been acting suspiciously. "Mr. Castellano," she said, sliding a document across the table, "we have testimony that you've been under financial pressure, that you've been gambling, that you owe people money." "That's not true," I said, and it wasn't. I didn't gamble. I'd never been in debt. "We have records of you visiting casinos in Atlantic City." A lie. Or, I thought back. 6 months ago, Marcus had suggested a weekend trip to Atlantic City. Devin came along. We'd gone to a casino, sure, but I'd played maybe $50 on the slots before getting bored and going back to the hotel. Marcus and Devin had stayed. They'd been building a narrative, creating witnesses, planting evidence. "I went once for a friend's birthday," I said, calmly. "I'm happy to provide bank records showing I have no unusual expenditures or withdrawals." "We'll need those," Agent Chen said. Janet Reeves, sitting beside me, squeezed my hand under the table. After 2 hours, they let me go. No arrest, not yet, but Agent Chen made it clear I was under investigation. I shouldn't leave the country. I should expect more questions. I thanked them for their time and left. Marcus was waiting in the lobby, concern etched on his handsome face. He pulled me into a hug and I let him, even as my skin crawled. "How did it go?" "Terrible," I said, my voice shaking. Not hard to fake. I was furious, not afraid, but fury and fear sound similar enough. "They think I embezzled millions. Marcus, they have documents with my signature. They have witnesses. Hey, he said, stroking my hair. "We'll fight this. We'll prove you're innocent." "What if we can't?" "Then we'll figure it out. I'll sell everything if I have to. Get you the best lawyers money can buy." Such a convincing performance. "I love you," I whispered against his chest. "I love you too," he said. The lie tasted like poison. Over the next 3 weeks, I became someone else. Not outwardly, I still played the role of frightened victim perfectly. I leaned on Marcus for support, cried on Devin's shoulder, expressed terror about going to prison for crimes I didn't commit. But inside, I was a different person. Cold, calculating, methodical. Every conversation was recorded, every interaction documented. I installed cameras in our penthouse, hidden in smoke detectors, picture frames, even the bedroom. If they were going to plan my destruction under my own roof, I wanted every word on tape. I hired a private investigator, Vincent Torres, and paid him in cash. His job was simple: follow Marcus and Devin, document everything. The photos he brought me were damning. Marcus and Devin kissing in an alley behind a restaurant. Marcus and Devin entering a hotel together at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. Marcus and Devin looking at apartments in Manhattan, clearly planning their future. "You want me to keep going?" Vincent asked. "I want everything. I want documentation of every meeting, every location, every moment they're together." He nodded, pocketing the cash. I also started my own investigation into the shell companies. Meridian Solutions, Cascade Holdings, Phoenix Consulting, they might be registered anonymously in Delaware, but money always leaves a trail. I used my contacts in the cybersecurity world, called in favors from hackers I'd worked with on white hat operations, and slowly, painfully, I started to unravel the web. The money from the fake wire transfers hadn't disappeared. It had been moved, laundered through several accounts, but ultimately it landed in 2 places: an offshore account in Marcus's name
an offshore account in Devon's name. $3 million split evenly between them. I documented everything. Screenshots, bank records, transaction histories. I created an encrypted backup and stored it in 3 separate locations: a safety deposit box, a secure cloud server, and with my attorney Janet Reeves in a sealed envelope marked "Do not open unless I'm arrested or die." Janet looked at me strangely when I handed it to her. "Arian, what's going on?" "Insurance," I said. "If something happens to me, open it. Trust me." She nodded slowly. Meanwhile, Marcus and Devon continued their charade. Marcus would come home and hold me while I cried about the investigation. He'd tell me everything would be okay, that we'd fight this together, that he'd never leave my side. Then, an hour later, my hidden cameras would capture him texting Devon, "He's falling apart. This is perfect. Another few weeks and he'll take a plea deal just to make it stop." Devon, for his part, played the supportive best friend beautifully. "You know I'm here for you, right? No matter what happens, you're my brother." "I know. I don't know what I would do without you." "You'll never have to find out," he promised. Liar. The FBI continued their investigation, and Agent Chen called me in twice more for questioning. Each time, I cooperated fully. Each time, I played the innocent man confused by false allegations. And each time, I left a breadcrumb.
"Have you looked into Marcus's financial records?" I asked during the third meeting. Agent Shen's eyes narrowed. "Why would we?" "No reason," I said quickly. We have joint accounts, and I thought maybe if someone was moving money around, maybe they'd see both of us." "We'll look into it," she said. I nodded and changed the subject, but I saw it, the spark of interest in her eyes. They'd look into Marcus, and when they did, they'd find the offshore accounts. 4 weeks after the FBI first contacted me, Marcus and Devon made their move. I came home to find Marcus packing a suitcase. "What's going on?" I asked, genuine surprise in my voice. He turned and his expression was careful, concerned. "Adrian, we need to talk." Ice ran through my veins. "About what?" I think you need help." I blinked. "Help?" "The stress, the investigation, the way you've been acting, I'm worried about you. I think you should check yourself into a facility, just for a few weeks, to get your head straight." A facility? They wanted me institutionalized. "Adrian, I'm fine. I'm dealing with—" "You're not fine." His voice rose, and for a moment I saw genuine emotion there. Frustration. Maybe even anger. He was losing control of the narrative. "Fine," he said, finally. "But if you change your mind, I won't." He left that night, told me he needed space, that he'd stay at a hotel for a few days. He went to Devon's apartment. My cameras caught everything. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. One of the shell companies, Phoenix Consulting, had been sloppy. They'd used an email address that was tied to a social media account, and that account had location data enabled. The location data placed the account owner in Brooklyn, at Devon's apartment, on the dates the fraudulent wire transfers were initiated. I sent this information to Janet Reeves with a simple note. "I think Marcus and Devon are behind the embezzlement. Here's proof." She called me within an hour. "Adrian, if this is true—" "It's true. I have more. Text messages, photos, financial records. They've been planning this for months." Silence on the line. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I needed to be sure, and I needed enough evidence to bury them." "This is—" She paused. "This is beyond my scope. You need a criminal attorney, and you need to talk to the FBI." "Not yet," I said. "I need more time." "Adrian, they could arrest you any day now. If you have evidence proving your innocence—" "I will present it, but not yet. I need to make sure they can't wriggle out of this. I need it airtight." Another pause. "How long?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. "I'll stall the FBI as long as I can. But Adrian, be careful. If they realize you know—" "I won't." I hoped I was right. With 2 weeks left on my self-imposed deadline, I made my final moves. First, I approached our company's CFO, Margaret Liu, privately. "Margaret, I need you to conduct an internal audit, quietly." She frowned. "Adrian, the FBI is—" "I know, but I think someone inside the company has been moving money around.
I need you to check every transaction for the past year, cross-reference every authorization, and flag anything that doesn't match our standard procedures. Are you saying you didn't authorize those transfers? I'm saying I need an internal audit. Can you do it? She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Give me a week. She came back in 5 days. Adrian, you need to see this. The report she handed me was devastating. Not for me, for Marcus. 73 unauthorized transactions over 11 months, all using forged digital signatures, all routed through the shell companies, and the IP addresses traced back to 2 sources, Marcus's office computer and an external connection that matched Devin's home network.
There's more, Margaret said quietly. I found hidden accounts in the company's name, accounts you didn't authorize. They're empty now, but 6 months ago, they held over $4 million. $4 million? The embezzlement was worse than the FBI thinks. They only found $3 million. There's another $1 million unaccounted for. I felt a grim smile tug at my lips. Marcus and Devin had been even greedier than I thought. Margaret, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Prepare a presentation. Everything you just told me, formatted for a board meeting. I want charts, graphs, transaction histories, IP logs, everything. When do you need it? 3 days. She nodded. You'll have it. I called an emergency board meeting for the following Monday. Apex Dynamics had 5 board members. Me, Marcus, Margaret, and 2 outside investors, Richard Chen and Priya Desai. Both had put significant money into the company and had voting rights on major decisions. I sent the meeting request late on a Friday, giving them just enough notice to clear their schedules, but not enough time to prepare or coordinate. Marcus called me immediately. What's this about? The FBI investigation, I said, my voice tired. I think we need to address it as a board. Be transparent about what's happening. I'm done waiting, Marcus. This is destroying our company's reputation. We need to get ahead of it. Silence. Fine, he said finally. Monday at 10? Monday at 10. I hung up and took a deep breath. This was it. The end game. Monday morning dawned cold and clear. I arrived at the office at 8 a.m., 2 hours before the board meeting. Margaret was already there, setting up the conference room. Everything ready? I asked. She nodded, her expression grim. Presentation is loaded. I've also invited someone else. Who? Agent Chen. I called her Friday night, told her there were developments in the embezzlement case. She'll be here at 10:30. I felt a surge of gratitude. Thank you, Margaret. Thank me after this is over. At 9:45, the board members started arriving. Richard and Priya looked concerned but professional. They took their seats, nodded at me, made small talk. Marcus arrived at 9:55, Devin in tow. What's he doing here? I asked, gesturing to Devin. I asked him to come, for moral support. You've been so stressed lately, I thought having friends around might help. Of course, I said, smiling. The more the merrier. Devin gave me a sympathetic look and squeezed my shoulder as he passed. I wanted to break his hand. At exactly 10 a.m., I called the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming on short notice, I began. As you know, Apex Dynamics is currently under investigation by the FBI for financial irregularities. I want to address this head-on and provide full transparency about what's been happening. Marcus leaned back in his chair, looking relaxed, confident. He thought this was me falling apart, admitting defeat, maybe even resigning. Over the past few weeks, I've been conducting my own investigation into the allegations against me. I've reviewed financial records, consulted with forensic accountants, and traced the money trail from the unauthorized transactions. Richard leaned forward. And I've discovered that I am not responsible for the embezzlement. Marcus's expression flickered just for a second. Adrian, we all want to believe that, but I'm not finished. My voice cut through the room like a blade. I nodded to Margaret, and she pulled up the first slide of the presentation. These are the 73 unauthorized wire transfers that were made from Apex Dynamics accounts over the past 11 months. Total value, $4.2 million.
Priya gasped. The FBI is currently investigating $3 million. They haven't found the other $1.2 million yet. That's because it was better hidden. Marcus had gone very still. Each of these transactions was authorized using my digital signature. However, forensic analysis shows that the signature was forged, copied from legitimate documents, and pasted onto these fraudulent authorizations. Next slide. These transactions were initiated from 2 IP addresses. The first belongs to a computer in this building, specifically the computer in the CEO's office. I looked directly at Marcus. Your office, Marcus. His face had gone pale. The second IP address belongs to a residential internet connection in Brooklyn. The address matches the apartment of one Devin Pierce. Devin stood up. What the hell are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Sit down.
He sat. Next slide. The money from these transactions was funneled through shell companies, Meridian Solutions, Cascade Holdings, and Phoenix Consulting. All 3 companies are registered anonymously in Delaware, but their operational emails can be traced to the same Brooklyn IP address. I clicked to the next slide. Screenshots of text messages. Marcus and Devin's text messages. Planning the affair, planning the embezzlement, planning my destruction. These are private communications between Marcus Hayes and Devin Pierce discussing their romantic relationship, their plans to frame me for embezzlement, and their intention to send me to prison so they could take control of Apex Dynamics. Richard and Priya were staring at the screen in horror. Marcus stood up, his chair scraping loudly. "This is insane! You're clearly having a breakdown!" Next slide, Margaret. Bank records appeared on screen. These are offshore accounts in the names of Marcus Hayes and Devin Pierce. Combined, they contain $3 million, the exact amount embezzled from Apex Dynamics and discovered by the FBI. The remaining $1.2 million is in a separate account that I'll be providing to authorities. "This is fabricated," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "You're framing us." "Am I?" I stood up, meeting his eyes. "Then explain how I managed to forge text messages from your phone going back 7 months. Explain how I created bank records that federal agents will be able to verify within hours. Explain how I manipulated IP logs from our own servers." Silence. "You can't," I said, "because this isn't a fabrication. This is the truth. You and Devin have been having an affair for over 6 months. You conspired to embezzle money from the company we built together. And when you realized I might discover what you'd done, you decided to frame me, to send me to federal prison so you could be together and keep everything." Devin's face had crumpled. He looked like he might cry. Marcus just stared at me, and for the first time in months, I saw the real him. Not the loving partner, not the concerned friend, the predator who'd almost destroyed me. "You thought you were playing chess with a pawn," I said quietly. "You forgot I own the board." There was a knock at the conference room door. Margaret opened it. Agent Sarah Chen walked in, flanked by 2 other FBI agents. "Mr. Hayes, Mr. Pierce, you're both under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, embezzlement, and obstruction of justice." Marcus lunged for the door. He didn't make it 3 steps before the agents had him on the ground, hands cuffed behind his back. Devin didn't run. He just sat there, tears streaming down his face. "Adrian, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught." As they were let out in handcuffs, Marcus looked back at me one last time. "I loved you." "No," I replied. "You loved what I could give you. There's a difference." The legal proceedings took 6 months. Marcus and Devin both tried to cut deals, but the evidence was too overwhelming. Text messages, bank records, IP logs, testimony from Margaret and the forensic accountants, it all painted a picture of calculated, premeditated fraud. They were each sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Marcus's attorney tried to argue for a lighter sentence, claiming his client had been under emotional duress. The judge wasn't sympathetic. "You didn't just steal money," she said during sentencing. "You tried to destroy an innocent man's life to cover up your crimes and your affair.
You weaponized the criminal justice system against someone who trusted you. That shows a level of depravity that demands significant punishment. 12 years. I didn't attend the sentencing. I'd seen enough of both of them to last a lifetime. Apex Dynamics survived the scandal, barely. We lost some clients, but Margaret and I worked tirelessly to rebuild trust and transparency. Richard and Priya stood by us, and slowly, painfully, we climbed back. The FBI dropped all charges against me, and Agent Chen personally apologized for the investigation. You handled this better than most people would have. I had good motivation. The beach house in the Hamptons I sold. Too many memories. I bought a loft in Soho instead. Modern and clean and entirely mine. The penthouse downtown I kept, but I gutted it. New furniture, new paint, new everything. I wanted no trace of Marcus left in my space. Some nights I still wake up angry. Not at the betrayal, I've made peace with that, but at the audacity of it, the calculation, the willingness to destroy me completely just so they could have what they wanted. They thought I was weak because I loved them. They learned otherwise. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled it, if I wish I'd just confronted them directly, maybe tried to salvage something. The answer is no. They made their choice when they decided to frame me for federal crimes. I simply ensured they faced the consequences. There's a quote I keep on my desk now, printed on a small card. You thought you were playing chess with a pawn. You forgot I own the board. It reminds me that underestimation is the greatest weapon someone can hand you, and that sometimes the best revenge isn't hot and explosive. It's cold, methodical, and absolutely devastating.
The end.